ever considered that we are living in a unique time, that something world-changing is about to happen, and that it might concern you? If so, you're in the right place. Keep listening, and you'll hear thought-provoking views behind the news that point to a new and better future for all. Many people now sense that humanity is not alone. So consider this. If the Christ or the Buddha walked among us today as modern men, would we recognize them? What would they be saying? And most importantly, would we listen? Every Sunday on this program, Share International Radio will examine extraordinary events that are unfolding behind the headline news. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for. And now, welcome to this week's show.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to Share on the Air Radio. I'm Cielito Pascual. I am podcasting from Seattle, Washington, and very pleased to have you join us. We're here every week presenting thought-provoking views behind the news in regards to the most extraordinary event in the history of humanity, I believe, and many thousands of people believe around the world. And that event is the emergence of Maitreya, the World Teacher, and the Masters of Wisdom. And this show, we're approaching show 65 if we're not there yet. So on every show, we interview guests who have come across this story, guests with all kinds of backgrounds, a variety of beliefs and backgrounds and awarenesses, who've all come across this story and have found that it resonated for them. So definitely visit shareontheairradio.org to find out more about our shows. We're on Facebook, Share on the Air Radio North America. And we have a wonderful guest on the line today. And before I introduce him, I want to let our audience know, some of you are regular listeners, some of you may be new listening to this show for the very first time. To get an in-depth understanding of this show, we have an extraordinary resource online where you can hear a gentleman by the name of Benjamin Creme. He's the primary exponent of this esoteric perspective on the emergence of Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom. And there are dozens of videos online, thanks to the efforts of my guest and his team, dozens of videos from talks and lectures that will help us to understand this tremendous event. And again, I especially welcome our listeners listening in for the first time. So you can find those videos on YouTube by doing a search for Share International YouTube, and the top result will get you right to that page. So let's introduce our guest, and we'll delve into some interesting information here. And we're going to hear recordings, never before broadcast recordings that are from the archives, stored in the office of my guest. He is Michael Smith. He is a video producer and editor based in New York City, based in Manhattan, and we're going to talk about why the story has resonated for him and a perspective of this story that I think will be very interesting to our audience. And that perspective is understanding the most important thing for humanity to know and to learn and to express in the coming human renaissance that Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom are here to help usher in. So let's introduce Michael Smith. Let's welcome him. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Cielito. how exciting it is to be here finally on your radio program. I'm speaking to you from beautiful New York City. Spring in New York City. Mother Earth is manifesting itself beautifully in the park with all its colors and all the celebrations of this time. So I'm very happy to be speaking with you.
I can just imagine. When I was living in New York, as you know, I was a frequent visitor to your home, and you are a half block from Central Park. And I can just imagine how gorgeous it is right now.
Yeah,
so
the elementals
the time.
The elementals are having a party out there. It's totally gorgeous.
Yes, the nature spirits, and in the esoteric terminology, we call them elementals, and we might mention a little later how important the elementals are. But let's before we go into your background and how you came to the hearing about the story of the emergence of Maitreya, the world teacher, share with us what's the most you have been paying attention to this information for many years now. And you have grown and evolved as a person, as we all do over time. When you think back to having first heard the story to what you know today, what do you think is the most surprising thing that you've learned about the emergence of Maitreya?
Okay, there's so many things. But one thing at the beginning, especially when you're getting all this new information, for me, what was a wonderful surprise was the way Jesus Christ is part of the story, and that this is giving my Christian upbringing. Because in my Christian upbringing, I really never followed the church, but I really liked that character. I loved Jesus of Nazareth, of Palestine, and then suddenly with the story of the reappearance, I see that he's not only one individual, one only Son of God. He is actually a member of a group which we call the Masters of Wisdom, part of that kingdom that we were not taught of in school. In school we get to know about the mineral kingdom, the plant, the animal, and the human kingdom, and suddenly with the teachings that I got through Benjamin Creme, you learn about the spiritual kingdom, of which we will be evolutionary, in our evolutionary process will be part of that spiritual kingdom, but it happened to be that Jesus was part of that spiritual kingdom and that he's still very active in what we're going through right now and all the help that we're receiving from that kingdom. So that was one of the first things that attracted me to it. But there's so many, Cielito.
And for our audience, I will remind ourselves that this is a non-denominational message. And it's a message for people of all religious and spiritual practices, and for those who don't have a particular belief system. We're focusing on how do we transform humanity so that this planet can remain, continue, so humanity and all life on it can continue in a self-sustaining way. So this is the gift of this information, is the learning that there is not just, as you say, the plant, animal, mineral kingdom. There is the spiritual kingdom that is as much a part of all life on planet Earth and throughout the solar system and throughout the universe, of course. So tell us how you came across the story of Maitreya's emergence. And I will preface that Benjamin Creme, as I said, is the primary exponent of this story, and his background is as an author and an esotericist, and he has traveled the world sharing this story. And you and I, Michael, we first heard about this through Mr. Creme.
But
go ahead and share.
But talking about the story is that, we as human beings, all of us as individuals, when we're born, what do we know? We're born into a belief system, most of us. I was brought up Catholic. We didn't practice that much, but you get to learn about it. And some of us stay in that same belief system for the rest of our lives, and others of us start investigating different things because we feel that there's attraction. I was brought up Christian and practiced somewhat. I was baptized. I did my first communion, and I went through the whole guilt factor. But I was surrounded by open-thinking people in the 60s. You know, I'm a Jesus Christ superstar type of guy. You know, and Jesus, in this case, his actions attracted me. The church did not attract me. Then as I was growing up...
When you said Jesus Christ Superstar, that was a Broadway
that's
musical.
The movie. Yeah, no, in a movie.
A musical and a movie movies. From... Yes. And it was like set to, rock.
Was an apostle. Oh, yes. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
For those in the audience who were not born at the time.
Oh, but I highly recommend it. It's beautiful. So then after that, I got introduced, thank goodness, to books of, for example, Carlos Castañeda, The Teachings of Don Juan. They were wonderful because then I started learning that I was not alone, that there was something and someone out there. And also where you start realizing the power that we have as human beings. Then as I kept on growing, I was very fortunate that I went to events like the first World Sorcery Congress in Bogota in 1980, where I got introduced to people like Uri Geller. Remember that character that used to bend knives? Bend spoons.
Bend spoons.
You know, they start
Uri Geller,
exactly.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so in over there in that conference, he was this big showman telling the audience, "Oh, please help me. And then one Brazilian reporter, which happened to be a powerful human being, at the end, when they were doing the old interviews, he made fun of Uri Geller by bending spoons right in front of them, saying, "Not only you have this power, we all have that power." So they were demonstrating that we all have this power. And also in that place, there were mediums. I got introduced to Kirlian photography. And I realized that I had this attitude of the why not attitude. I remember going to conferences where they talked about UFOs or where they talked about the fairies and the fawns. And I would say, why not? You know, why not give?
And that's usually how we come. Yeah, we start to explore those areas first. UFOs and
Benjamin Creme in front of. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Benjamin Creme before he started any of his talks, I hear some music in the background.
Yes. Well, we're going to move into a break, so hold that thought. And after the break, we will continue to speak with Michael Smith in New York City about Maitreya, the World Teacher, and the Masters of Wisdom. We'll be right back.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Spiritual, metaphysical, green living, psychic, alternative healing, life coaching. Do any of these or similar terms apply to your business or cause? If so, you are in a niche market with a very specific audience. Conscious Gate PR is the world's leading conscious public relations agency. With a global reach of over 4 million and growing, we offer comprehensive media campaigns to our targeted market. Learn more at ConsciousGatesPR.com. Conscious marketing for conscious minds.
Join Vibe Nation radio host, international psychic medium Carrie Turcotte, as she guides her listeners to rediscover themselves by accessing the keys of knowledge that already exist within. Each week's show is divinely orchestrated to intertwine with the universal energies, allowing the listeners to go deeper within. At the end of each show, Carrie will tap into the energies of the listeners and give a message from Spirit about the upcoming week. If you really want to get to know who you truly are, join Carrie each Monday at 3 p.m. on Vibe Nation Radio.
Now there's a book about UFOs that stands out. British author Benjamin Creme has worked directly with the Space Brothers and writes about their spiritual mission in The Gathering of the Forces of Light, a truly inspiring book. Visit shareontheairradio.org for details. That's shareontheairradio.org. shareontheairradio.org.
Hey everybody, Rachel Ray here. Nothing brings a bigger smile to my face than cooking up a big meal for the whole family and lots of friends. But there's not enough room at my table for the 17 million kids in our country who struggle with hunger. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks collects surplus food to give hope to hungry kids. But they can't do it without your help. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
And we're back On Share on the Air Radio, I'm Cielito Pascual in Seattle. I'm interviewing Michael Smith. He's a student of the Ageless Wisdom Teachings, as is every guest on this show, and he's in New York City. And Michael, you were just describing your earliest explorations of sort of the non-traditional aspects of life. You mentioned seeing Uri Geller bending spoons and at a conference in Bogota. And often, you know, when we explore those things, we just, I know that I had a craving for deeper information. How did you come to hear about the story of the emergence of Maitreya and the Masters?
Well, once this roller coaster of knowledge coming in, and when I say roller coaster, it's more of us being aware, me being aware that there's something out there more of what we're seeing or feeling or being told. I went now then into the New Age era information, what we call astral, you know, where I got introduced to the concept of masters. I even was totally convinced that I could reach mastery in one lifetime, you know. But then in 1999, somebody told me that Benjamin Creme, this British painter, was coming to New York to speak, and they told me that I should go there. And that was the first time in 1999 here in New York City that I went to a talk that was organized by you and the New York group. And then when I heard Benjamin Creme, I recognized that tune. It jived with my vibration. I know that all of us react to information like we react to music or to a nice smell. It vibrates with us. That's at the same time why I respect everybody else's beliefs, because who are we? You know, everything is a story. We talk about our story. The Christians have their stories. The Jewish people have their stories. The Buddhists have their stories, because that's really what we know and what we can share. And in this case, Ben was telling us his wonderful story, and I immediately reacted to it. I found my home, I can say.
What did you hear specifically that
what
said,
struck me
this is
most
home?
about the story, yes. Okay, that it was inclusive. No one was good, no one was bad. It did not compete with other beliefs. It included the diversity of the different stories out there. Because belief systems are all different stories that different people react to and are attracted to. We feel comfortable with the information, and I felt very comfortable. I recognized it. It felt good. I knew that it was not, and I also knew that I wasn't entering a closed, exclusive group. I was evolved in the consciousness of being aware that our spiritual evolution, and that, and the Ageless Wisdom Teachings were demonstrating that spiritual evolution that we have been going through eons. And suddenly I had something that was inclusive. That's the beauty of it. It was so inclusive and so respectful of everything and of everybody.
And what's so interesting about Mr. Creme's lectures, excerpts of which, as I said earlier, our listeners can find on Share, when they do a search for Share International YouTube. Mr. Creme would spend, he is no longer with us, but certainly these recordings, these audio and video that you and your group helped to make available to the public, oftentimes he would spend more time in the lecture talking about political and economic issues before he would talk about spiritual issues. And he would talk about the spiritual principle of sharing. How does that, can you explain for our listeners how sharing connects with our political and economic condition? Why is that connected?
Yeah, well, extremely connected. What I also loved about Benjamin, and when he talks, is like you said, it was all connected to what was happening right now in the world. And also he reminded us that spirituality does not have to do only with the religion, but also with what is happening with the political situation, the economical, the social situation. And when he talks about sharing, it is probably the most powerful issue right now, because it has to do with the direction that humanity should take and will take, which is that of harmlessness, which is that one of good human relations, which is that one of trust. And then one of the interesting things when we are talking and sharing, because you and I, when we encountered this story, we found ourselves that we want to share it. Anytime we find something that we love, we want to share it with people. Also, not only are we going through that part of expressing what we love and sharing it with people, we've also been actually asked by Maitreya. The master has asked us to help. So that is something that we like to talk to about when we talk to people. And then when we talk about sharing, which is the word you're asking about, the concept that you're asking about, it's very interesting how people react. People don't understand the word sharing very well. They think that sharing means emptying half of the refrigerator and giving it away, or also getting rid of the television in the living room because they already have one in the bedroom. That is not really it. The sharing is all the resources that we actually have and that they've been proven scientifically that we do have. There's enough food to feed us all. Yes, we're overpopulated and we're going to deal with that, and we can deal with that. That's part of the process. But if we start taking care of each other, of sharing, that's where we have to go, and it's very important that we do so. And I could just keep on talking about sharing, Cielito, because there's so much to say. There's so much to say in the sense that there's many people that are working on how things can be implemented. It's not that the masters are going to appear and they're going to say, okay, let's start figuring out how to share. No, all those things are happening right now. There's human beings working on their own, human beings that haven't even heard about Maitreya, which is the beauty of it. People that know that we have to find a solution and that they're getting it, and they're being inspired precisely by that spiritual kingdom. There's so much story, Cielito, and it's so exciting. And I can just keep on blabbering right now, but please ask me a question.
And I enjoy listening to you. I also want to make the distinction that the spirit in which we share this story is not in the spirit of convincing people. And that's important for our listeners to know. I certainly, when I came across this information, if I felt that someone was trying to convince me this was true, I would have recoiled and turned around and walked in the opposite direction. But I also had the same experience when I attended a lecture of Benjamin Creme that really was presented for my consideration. I could accept it or reject it. I could accept part of it and go back to other parts I didn't quite understand. I certainly have seen that spirit in every endeavor where this information is shared. And that's really the hallmark of this story.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love what you say about inclusiveness because we haven't mentioned this on the show, but I'm going to mention it. If our listeners Google search, they will find all kinds of opinions and perspectives on this particular story. So I would invite our listeners to find the approach that's inclusive, that is non-denominational, the approach that is the opposite of proselytizing, the approach that is in the spirit of sharing as you are exploring this story. And the main page for all of this information is at this website. It's share-international, all spelled out, .org, share-international.org. Let's, as we go into the end of the segment here, I wonder if we can play the excerpt that you've set up for us. It is Benjamin Creme speaking. We'll hear about a minute of it, and it is key to helping us understand why Maitreya and the Masters are here. Do you have that set up for us?
Yep. This is something that you and I are going to try for the first time. I'm basically going to put my phone on the computer screen, and we're going to listen to a short excerpt of Benjamin Creme. So when you're ready, I'll go ahead and do it.
And what's the topic? He's speaking on the real. Yeah.
Let's see.
It's the real education.
It's talking about education. So let's just let it play. This was done. This talk was in 19. Oh my goodness. Of course, it was in 2008. And it was a conference that he gave in San Francisco about education. Okay, so here we go.
Take a listen.
Saying it, hopefully it will sound great.
We're not educated because we're not educated for life. That's the point. We're only educated for work. Some countries are better educated for work than others, and so they do better in the competition, which is the nature of commercialization, market forces. Make men compete in order to get the most, to be in front, to do better, to get the market. But that's nothing to do with real life. Education should be understood as the means by which the indwelling God is contacted, known, and given expression.
Okay, see? Hopefully people understood the audio. Now let me just mention that, because it has to do what Ben just said, which is so powerful, has to do a lot with what attracts me a lot about this work and about the job that we're doing and what the masters of wisdom are doing and their importance of being here with us again. Because what man has to go through, and also in terms of education, is that man has forgotten that we are sacred, that we are sparks of God. We are powerful, we are beautiful, we are gods in the making. But we are so squished, humanity is so squished that they don't even have time to think that they are, or to be aware that they are sacred. They're hungry, they're being oppressed. Life is tough as tough can be, and humanity is not aware of its divinity. That is the word that I wanted to find, this divinity. We are divine. The difference between us and the masters, one of the big differences is that they know that they're divine. And as music comes in the background,
yes, we will move into our break.
We are divine.
And we're going to reiterate,
all of us are divine.
Yes, we will reiterate what we just heard from Benjamin Creme for those of you who may not have heard it clearly. It's very valuable to know. So we will continue after the break. Share on the Air Radio. Stay with us.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
The Awakening of Humanity by Benjamin Creme is a concise, prophetic book about momentous changes soon to occur. It focuses on an unprecedented event, the emergence into full public life of Maitreya, the World Teacher. Download the book free online. Visit shareontheairradio.org. That's shareontheairradio.org. shareontheairradio.org.
My name is Dale Pazinski, and this is how I live United. I volunteer with United Way, helping the homeless in my community by teaching computer skills and helping them build a basic resume to save on their very own USB drive. It's huge when somebody says, "Hey man, that job that you helped me apply for, I got it." My name is Dale Pazinski. I help people achieve financial independence. So I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
And we're back on Share on the Air Radio with Michael Smith, and I'm Cielito Pascual. For our listeners, if you missed the break, we have a little announcement about a free download that you can find at share-international.org. It's the book The Awakening of Humanity by Benjamin Creme, one of over a dozen books that he published, and it's actually free. You can download the PDF and load it to your reader, and just get lots of nuggets of insights and learning right there immediately. So again, share-international.org, free download of The Awakening of Humanity. And we just played an excerpt of a talk given by Benjamin Creme. Again, if you're just tuning in. And what I love about it is Mr. Creme is making a very important distinction. He said, we are not educated for life. We are educated for work. That's what our educational system is based on. And many people are quite aware of that, or are awakening to that. He talks about the commercialization of life and how our education prepares us to enter that gladiator ring of competition and market forces. We are trained to be the perfect cog in the profit-making machine. And he says the real purpose of life, the real education that we truly need is something else entirely. Michael, you want to expound on what that real education is?
Well, Ben called it beautifully the art of living. The art of living. Also, the awareness that in this living, there's laws. There's the law of rebirth. There is the law of karma. Not only the law of death and taxes, like we were educated on the other way. There's really very wonderful, important things. Imagine the time when our children will be born and they'll be educated and know and be aware that they are reincarnating, that there are souls that coming again to their next batch of lessons. And also that when we get to the end of our road, we'll realize that now it's time to leave. Ben would make fun of us human beings, how we're really very fast and wanting to change the body of our old car for a new car. But when it comes to get rid of our body that is hurting and is achy, we sometimes grab onto it when we don't realize that we're going to get a brand new one whenever the time comes. But going back to the education, Ben talks about harmlessness and good human relations. Maitreya talks about Maitreya's priorities, which is that in education in the sense that if we follow these tenets of honesty of mind, sincerity of spirit, and detachment. In other words, whatever you think, whatever you say, whatever you do, let it be the same. And also so important when they say sincerity of spirit is be open-hearted. When you speak with your heart open. Look at the person in the eye. Be engaged. Listen. Be aware of them. And, of course, the detachment, which is the toughest one, which is that of being more of an observer, of realizing that whatever it is that you're feeling is not really you. It's basically your personality and your physical body, but not that spark of God, which we are. So that's what he's talking, part of what he means when he says education.
I just want to interject here because I went to a talk the other day here in Seattle given by an artist organization, and it was actually a panel discussion by preeminent artists from this area, and they were talking about failure, what it means to fail, and how failure can lead us actually to success. And one of the speakers, really highly regarded theater director and producer, she said that her art changed. Her art was transformed when she realized that she was not her art, that she created it and she made it available to the public. She guided it, she brought it about, but it wasn't her identity.
Okay, can I jump in?
Yeah. I wanted to connect that to what you were saying about detachment. Yeah, because I think it underlies.
Not only that, see, we are given, the masters are always giving us opportunities, always, constantly. When you talk about she was inspired, this woman was inspired, her art was inspired. There's many, once you start learning more, and that's where whoever is listening to this for the first time, there's so much to learn. And when we talk about masters, if you want to, you can learn about masters. And one of the things that the masters do, these beings that no longer need to embody themselves again and reincarnate because they already learned everything that has to be learned on this planet, on this university, what they do is they try to give us advice. They try to give us inspiration. We've seen the inspiration happening in the Mozarts and the Bachs and the Beethovens and the Da Vincis, but also in that woman artist that you're talking about, also in you and I, with whatever we do, there's moments where we get inspired, and it's something that comes from above, and that's how they get information to be disseminated. So what that artist said is true. You know, many things that we do are inspired, and they come through us, and they're part of this group work. It's part of all it jives with the energies of Aquarius, of teamwork, of group work, of us inspiring and people inspiring us, and in this case, masters inspiring us.
I want to bring the conversation back to the recording we just heard, where Mr. Creme said that the real education is about bringing about the means to contacting and knowing and expressing the indwelling God. What's another way of that you would that you think would help us understand that? That's another way of saying expressing our divinity.
Yeah.
And one would think that being nice and polite and helping old ladies across the street is expressing divinity. Of course, that's a given, that as a human being we help others. But what's a deeper way of understanding that?
A deeper way of understanding that. Well, if you go with
sometimes we have to think about it a bit.
The Christ, which is wonderful, because really I don't know anything. All I know is that I know nothing. Who said that? The fact is that with all this knowledge that we're receiving, what I find very comfortable is that I open myself to it, right? And I know that there's so much more that I don't know, that there's so much that is unknowable, and that I will know someday. But the fact is just that you go at the pace that you go, and that everything is perfect. And why is it perfect? Because that's where it is, and that it's up to us to keep on advancing, or in our case, to keep on evolving. In our case, to be more aware and more conscious. So that God inside of us. I mean, didn't Jesus say that 2,000 years from now, my reign will be there? In other words, what we call the Christ principle. There's something inside of us that is sprouting, and this is the time for it to sprout. We're entering the age of Aquarius. We're entering this wonderful age where we have the World Teacher Maitreya and his brethren guiding us through this energetically powerful time where we as human beings are manifesting that God inside of us. And we're seeing it every time with these exciting, crazy, scary days where we have this wonderful agent of change, which is Mr. Trump, in the sense that things are moving, and we know that this is happening. You and I, when we're aware of this change that's happening between the age of Pisces and Aquarius with all these different energies, this is tumultuous times. I mean, it's an understatement. I mean, it's crazy. This is a crazy reality show every day, but it's fascinating because humanity, many of us in humanity are expressing that's what's the word you said, that God, that God in us, that indwelling God, because we're taking control. We're aware that we have to take control of our planet. You know, so it's exciting times, and that's something beautiful about Benjamin's message of hope. By the way, when you ask me what attracted me, this is a message of hope.
Yes, because, and certainly in the times today, there's so much upheaval. As you just said, that we need to kind of hold on to something that makes sense. So, here's my next question. You know, you and I understand, having paid attention to this story over many years, that the emergence of Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, who, you know, I told this story to a young musician just last night, and he said, when I said the Masters of Wisdom, he said, "Oh, a spiritual posse." And I love that term. It evokes just the right picture for me. But it's not just the emergence of these great elder brothers and eventually sisters of humanity here to help us, but it is our awakening into a new awareness of who we are, not just as individuals, but who we are as humanity. From what you understand, what do you think is the most important thing our listeners should start to try to explore and understand and know about our reality as humanity?
Okay, I got something here. Our reality as humanity is that if I personally understand everything is energy, and it's not only me, it's something that I've read and I've been told, and I recognize that everything is energy. You know, different vibrations, different frequencies. And right now we're entering the age of Aquarius. And it's not only a song in Jesus Christ Superstar and one of those movies in those days of the 60s that I loved, but it's not only a T-shirt, but it's something that is real. Now, there's something wonderful, and here I'm going to read it. I made a copy and paste from the question and answer section of the Share International website, which is a wonderful website. And it talks about Aquarius, and this is what humanity right now is going to encounter. All these energies, the particular energies of Aquarius, and so it says, the outstanding quality of the energy of Aquarius is synthesis. Hence, the result of its actions will be a blending and fusing of the present divided and separative humanity into a whole. A new sense of openness with all creation will replace the present sense of separation in the social and political spheres that will demonstrate as brotherhood, justice, and sharing. The present fear and confusion will give way to a new freedom and a sense of meaning and purpose in life. It will be an age in which humanity, for the first time as a whole, realizes and manifests its inherent divinity. Cooperation will replace competition. Tolerance and goodwill will supersede division and hate. So there we go to our music.
That's a beautiful quote. Again, from share-international.org on the Age of Aquarius. We will complete our program after the break with...
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Hi, I'm Kelly Fox, host and astrologer of The Astrology Show. Each week, I'll give you access to the current transits, which are a valuable tool that provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has. Understanding the stars can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, be sure to tune in to The Astrology Show for guidance. Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Are you on a spiritual path and want a quick reference guide? Look no further. The booklet Ageless Wisdom Teaching introduces key spiritual concepts, including reincarnation, meditation, and initiation. Download the book free online. Visit shareontheairradio.org for details. That's shareontheairradio.org. shareontheairradio.org.
It only takes a minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it at doihaveprediabetes.org. But you're probably not going to, are you? Kids, work, listening to the radio. You're busy, which is great because busy people can't get prediabetes. Oh my, I read that wrong. They can. Should have worn my glasses. So visit doihaveprediabetes.org and take a short test, because prediabetes can be reversed.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
And we're in our final segment of Share on the Air Radio with our guest, Michael Smith. And Michael, you have more audio for us to listen to. And I want to let our listeners know that when you watch and listen to the audio at Share International on YouTube, there is an energetic quality that makes listening to Benjamin Creme it's a very compelling experience. So if the sound is a little low, don't be frustrated. Again, you can go to YouTube and hear more in high fidelity, as it were. So, Michael, why don't you introduce this next excerpt for our listeners?
Okay, this is a continuation of what we heard originally. It's from the same conference in San Francisco, and it has to do with education. Okay, here we go.
You're giving a bit of yourself. You're picking and choosing.
Sorry, wrong button. Take 2.
We're with you, Michael. Go ahead and crank it up when you're ready.
Okay, just a minute.
To God. Listen.
If you can go a little louder, that'd be great.
Religion is one of many ways to God. This is something which people have to know. They have to know that God doesn't exist only in religion, that you have to be religious to know God. God should demonstrate in every single human being, every aspect of their life, every moment of every day. If we were all about in moment-to-moment contact with who and what we absolutely inwardly are, then that's what would happen. Every moment, that divinity would shine through.
Again, he's talking about our divinity and the importance of manifesting that divinity and recognizing our divinity. Because a big exercise that I go through over here, if I get into a New York subway and I sit down and I start watching that variety, the beautiful variety of colorful, different humanity, it really grounds me when I realize that each one of those beings is like I am, like we are, souls and incarnation, each one going through their own story, each one going through their own journey of evolution, each one as confused as the other one in many ways, but basically intrinsically going through the process of recognizing that divinity and manifesting that divinity. And there's a long way to go there, but we're going through that road and through that process right now.
And very often, I know I come across people that has me immediately forget that divinity does in fact express through every human being at every moment, from moment to moment, day to day. And so it's certainly a powerful exercise to be reminded constantly that we are all one. We are all expressing that one divinity, as hard as it may seem to believe at times.
Yep. See, and remember Ben, in his sense of humor, he'd always make fun of Bush, and boy, would he be having a ball with Trump. But also, he would be the first one to remind us that they are also souls in incarnation. They're like us. They're all sparks of God, individual sparks of God. Then we're going through this process that is called the plan. I call it the plan. I don't know exactly what it is. We talk about spiritualizing matter. There's all these terms and things that I don't dwell into. I just go with the flow, step by step, because I know as an experience, and you and I talked about this before, we are in a point in our life where we don't have to get our existential crises thinking of, where do I come from, what am I doing, and where am I going? Because we basically don't know exactly where, but we know that we're going, and we know that we've come from someplace, and we know that we're here to learn, right? So it's a personal, and they're all personal journeys. What I feel
personal
may be different. Everybody. Yeah, exactly. Personal and unique. Exactly. And adventurous, because boy, life is a wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous adventure. Thank goodness.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to acknowledge that there will be people listening to this, and I don't want to divert us from our conversation, but for those who may be thinking, wait a minute, was Hitler an expression of divinity? I'm going to let you, our listeners, we don't have time on this show to explain that, but certainly visit share-international.org, and answers to those questions will be there. Especially some people might be thinking of, well, who is the Antichrist? And if you want, you can even send us a message on Facebook at Share on the Air Radio North America. As I said, we don't have time on this particular program to go into detail on those questions, but I just wanted to acknowledge that some people may be thinking that. And certainly there is an esoteric perspective on who Hitler was, and who the Antichrist, what that is, which is actually an energy and not a being. But let's get back to the recording we just heard. It's very interesting. At the beginning, Mr. Creme said, religion is only one of many ways to know God. And that allows us to be quite inclusive in our attitude to all the other different endeavors of life, whether it's science or art or finance even, or math. Those are all different ways to understand God. And certainly when we look back on our human evolution, especially in the past 150 years, our awareness in regards to technology has increased exponentially. We're launching this new program. With hearing these audios in the coming weeks, we will have a new series called the Esoteric Audio Collections, where our listeners can hear excerpts from Benjamin Creme's talks, and you and I and other guests will expound on what we've just heard. What are some other topics? What are things that people can do as they're learning more? It's one thing to take information in, but it's also very important to take action, because the world is in a pretty perilous time right now. How can our listeners also take action as well as find out more?
It's good to have a cause that is bigger than yourself. That's just using a term. But it's great to have something that you care about and that you want to make a difference. And that can be, from like the people yesterday going on the marches and making your sign and voicing yourself. It's wonderful how all these things are happening, where people are being more active politically and calling their representatives and really making a difference. And Benjamin spoke about people power, which has been expressing itself for many years now and will continue to express itself stronger and stronger and stronger.
And you were referring to the March for Scientists.
Yes, the March for Science
yesterday. Just to put this show into historical context, because this is the first time scientists came out en masse to demonstrate, and thousands of people came out to march in support of scientists.
So what people can do to answer the question, what people can do is, in our case, we talk about the reappearance first of all because we like to, and we've been asked to. Maitreya himself has asked us for help. Benjamin asked us for help. We saw someone like Benjamin Creme lead by example, this special, precious human being that we were so fortunate to know, and that is now continuing his road as we will continue our roads. And so what we can do is talk to people about this, because imagine what will happen whenever the reappearance happens and they're out there. Somebody's going to start telling us about, hey, have you heard about this? The Master Jesus is back. And I say, yeah, I was talking about it. I say, well, why didn't you ask? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me before? So we go and we tell people as much as we can. We have a New York group here, which is very active, and they do talks all over the place, and they advertise their work. you can also work by acting as a good human being. You know, practice harmlessness, practice honesty of mind, sincerity of spirit, detachment. You know, be a good human being. Practice the golden rule that almost all major religions, if not all, practice, which is treat others as you treat yourself. In other words, let's lead by example. Let's lead by example. That's one of the great things that we can do. And never give up hope.
Never give up hope. All these principles of sharing, trust, and justice that are priorities in Maitreya's teachings, and as we say on every show, this unfolding event, it is an unfolding event, and it is working towards the day where Maitreya will present his priorities to all of humanity on what will be known as the Day of Declaration. And again, our listeners can do a search at the Share International site, share-international.org, for Day of Declaration to find out what that is. We're coming to the close of our show, Michael. Any last thoughts you want to share?
I count my blessings. I'm so happy to be alive. I'm so happy to be here right now in this moment of history. I'm so happy to be able to speak with you and that we can share these stories. And I'm very thankful. Thank you.
And thank you, Michael. We'll have you back again as a guest. Thanks for taking the time with us, and thank you to our listeners for joining in again for Share on the Air Radio. And please tune in every week. We'll have a new show next week. Thanks for listening, and be well. Share on the Air Radio North America. Find us on Facebook. Thank you, Michael.